Hey, it's me, Dax. We're back with another one of our 30 dates with Dax. This is date number 2. And in today's video, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a question that Stephanie has asked. Stephanie asks, how do I fill high-end luxury retreats? Now, for those of you that aren't aware, I've been running retreats for quite some time now. I think about 10 years. Certainly one of the first in the health and fitness area in the UK to kind of take retreats really high end. I'm not talking about a fitness boot camp. I'm talking about something extremely high end. My own one-to-one clients have paid me as much as £25,000 a week, for a single one-to-one retreat. My group retreats normally sitting somewhere between the £6,000 and £8,000 mark per person, with anything up to about 14, 15 people on those retreats as well, right? So they're, by most people's measure, they're certainly pretty high. I know that when I first ran my one-to-one, it was touted in Grazia magazine as the most expensive residential, when they called it boot camp, right? But the most expensive residential boot camp in the world. So look, at the end of the day, I know something about delivering high-end retreats and services, right? I've been doing it for a while. That said, I just want to put this out there so it's clean and clear. I'm not saying that my way is the only way. There are lots and lots and lots of ways to run retreats. There are lots and lots of ways to go to what most people would call the high-ticket end of the market. There are lots of ways to do this. I'm going to tell you my way because that's the only way I can speak about, right? Kind of this is the way that I've got experience with. I have tried different things over the years in order to fill my programs. What I'm about to share with you is actually the pretty much the way I go about it now. So this is exactly what I do to fill my events and get paid for the high ticket and all the rest of it, right? So thing number 1 is to get clear on what the specific retreat theme is, right? So don't sell a retreat. Don't say, hey, and even if it's a fitness retreat, don't sell a fitness retreat. If it's a couples retreat, don't just sell a couples retreat. Try and, well, as most people would call it, niche, right, or niche if you're American, right? Kind of dig deeper into the specific theme of the retreat. So, for example, one of the group retreats that I run is called the Guru Project, and perhaps you've heard of it, right? So the Guru Project is an event that's specifically designed to help entrepreneurs, like heart-centered entrepreneurs and coaches, to be able to find their voice show up in the world powerfully, impactfully, and get paid what they're worth, in order that they go back to achieving a lot more fun, a lot more freedom, a lot more fulfillment, and a lot more financial success. Because my marketplace, if you will, perhaps this is kind of resonating with you, is that I work with and I attract a lot of people who are extremely heart-centered, have these big ideas for the impact that they might want to make in the world, and yet find themselves for whatever reason following the herd, or being told about stuff that they can't do and they shouldn't do and they must do and they must always do and all that kind of stuff. And before you know it, kind of what used to be fun is not fun anymore. They've built a business built around other people's ideas. It's because that it's not as fulfilling anymore. They're not really working with who they really want to work with anymore. Anyone with a wallet and a pulse ends up becoming their client. They're certainly not having as much freedom. In fact, they're working every hour God sends, and they're not having the kind of financial success. Even if they are making good money, by the time they add up all the hours they spend working on their business, it doesn't feel like they're getting good money anymore, right? So the Guru Project is a themed project specifically for those individuals, and specifically around the concept of being a guru. And again, think about that. Most people have got negative connotation to the word guru. Right, so guru kind of sounds a little bit like, kind of one of those snake oil salesmen, like fitness guru or marketing guru or kind of Facebook ads guru or whatever it happens to be. And most people kind of got the air quotes thing going on, right? There you go. Right, most people got the air quotes thing going on whenever they think about guru. Well, for me, a guru is the person. It comes from the Sanskrit. Gu means dark, ru means light. So a guru is somebody who moves you from the dark into the light. And the other way that you can interpret that is a guru is the dark thing again, but or the light and heavy thing, right? The guru basically helps you put down your burdens. So think about that, light in a couple of different ways. Light as in the kind of the light shining on you when you're in the dark, but light as in helping you put down the kind of the sack of rocks that you've started to carry from doing business everybody else as well. Well, that's the theme. And the idea that we're trying to build up a system for people to fall back in love with not only their business but their lives, right? So anyone who's been on Guru will tell you that it's much, much deeper than a business mentorship, right? It's something much, much bigger than that. So what will your theme be? Like, what's the deep theme? Because off the back of the deep theme, you want to get clear on what the specific problems the retreat solves and how it solves them, right? So the Guru project is built around kind of 7 M's of Guru, right? So kind of we got the the messenger, the magic, the message. We've got the money, we've got the model, we've got the market, we've got the marketing, right? Each section, and what you'll notice is that actually the messenger comes first. So we don't even look at marketing until the end. We don't try and figure out who the marketplace is going to be, who your avatar is, kind of, you know, what they're willing to spend. We actually say, well, who are you? What are you about? What's your magic? Well, like, what's your gift to the world? What's the kind of message that you want to deliver to the world? Okay, now we figured that out. Now let's start to figure out the money. Once we've got the money, let's figure out the model. Once we've got the model, let's start to figure out the market. Now we've got the market, let's figure out the marketing. It's very different, right? So you can see it's themed for solving specific problems along the way. Right. That also means is that each one of those problems can be niched into a bit more deeply because it's based around a theme. Now you can do exactly the same thing, right? So you look at, like, okay, let's just for argument's sake say you're working on something to do with self-esteem, and it's self-esteem in mothers. Maybe you're specifically targeting mothers, right, for self-esteem. I don't know what your retreat is, Stephanie. I'm not sure who you're trying to serve with this, but let's just for argument's sake say it's not just women. It's women who are mothers, right? Now, okay, kind of, so now you start to identify what are some of the specific problems that, you know, maybe you're working with them because they've lost their self-esteem, or they're kind of, you know, it's reduced, they're lost their way in the world, they used to be so certain of who they are. Well, so now you start to look at, like, what are all of the steps involved in getting a mother back to experiencing massive self-esteem, feeling like she's kind of number one back in her life again, that she's not subservient to the other roles that she's got in her life. What would some of those steps be? In other words, what are the problems that she's facing? And some of those problems might be to do with not knowing her values. Other parts might be to do with time management. Other parts might be to do with how she manages her energy around relationships, and so on and so forth. Now it starts to break up into these modular components. Right? So each modular component has its own set of problems, and then it has its own set of specific solutions. Now, what will those solutions be? Whatever it is that you believe is important to creating the solution, right? Why does the problem exist? What is the solution that you bring them to? How do you do that? So you would divide your retreat up into modules. So Guru is a 10-day program, but we spend actually nearly 7 days on just the first 3 M's, right? The messenger, the magic, and the message. We spend most of the time on that because the other parts, kind of 3 to 4 days, is more than enough to get through the other stuff, right? And these are very full days, by the way. They're not like short, you know, do a couple of hours here and there. Now on fitness-based retreats or on one-to-one retreats, I've got a different format again, but the idea is the same. It's modular. The modules are broken down into, here is a problem, here is a solution, here are the tools we need, and the steps we need to take in order to create that solution. So create a systematic, themed approach to solving the problem in a modular format. Next, develop useful analogies and stories that attract those who most need it and repel those who don't, right? So your job is not to be here in persuasion mode, right? Traditional copywriting, traditional marketing basically says, put this message out there, and then counter all of their objections, and kind of, you know, anytime a person will think, well, this isn't for me and I haven't got the time and this isn't, well, don't worry about trying to counter objections. Don't worry about trying to persuade people into it. In fact, go the other way. Repel the people that are not going to be a good fit for it, right? Say, look, if you're the kind of person who won't take 7 days out of your life in order to kind of, you know, if you've been struggling with this for 10 years, but you won't take 7 days out of your life, then unfortunately this is not going to be for you. It's not, you know, I can't help someone who's not going to, you'd say it in the way that you want to say it, but the underlying message here would be, it's not my job to kind of drag you kicking and screaming to your salvation, right? It's your job to create the life you want. Now, if you want to be part of something like this, this would be a really great fit for you. But if right now in your life you're not in a space where you can take the time or spend the money or do it, that's cool, but this is definitely not going to be for you then. So don't spend time persuading people. You want to be actively repellent. not repellent in a way like up your screw you, kind of I hate you and I never want to work with you. And I don't recommend that to anyone. Like even if they're not your market, right? But repel them in terms of where they actually, as they read your copy or they watch your videos or whatever, they immediately say, oh, this is definitely not for me. Like I can't afford it. I can't take that amount of time out. I don't want to get on a plane and fly all the way to Thailand, whatever it happens to be, right? We run the retreats in Thailand because of who I am when I'm in Thailand. And who I am when I'm in Thailand is extremely relaxed. I'm in my favorite place in the world. I'm in a Buddhist culture. We're eating amazing food. The weather is fantastic. I'm relaxed. I'm calm. I'm at peace. And for me to deliver my best retreat needs me to be all those things, right? And I also happen to believe that when people come out, they're going to have a very similar experience. But regardless, my first duty is to myself on my retreat. Like what's the experience that I want to have? And if I'm very clear on that, I have a tendency to attract the right people. If I start to think, yeah, but damn, they won't come all the way to Thailand. Maybe I should go and do it in Portugal. I've got nothing against Portugal, but maybe I should go and do it in Portugal because it's closer and more people would come. Well, look, I'm probably going to sell myself out. Okay, so think about that. Develop useful analogies and stories that attract people. So the guru is an analogy and a story, and it lends itself brilliantly to lightening the load and darkness and light and all of that kind of stuff. And throughout, anyone who's been on the Guru Project will tell you kind of throughout it, the theme runs continuous, kind of moving from dark to light. We even tell people that kind of, and the language around the course. When they're there, I actually explain to everyone on day one briefing that you will be moving back and forward from dark to light. And in fact, if you don't do it spontaneously, I will be asking challenging questions you might be having a really up day and I'll ask a challenging question that's deliberately designed to invoke your darkness temporarily. Right? And that's the language that people use there. Like, how are you doing today? I'm just feeling a little bit dark at the moment. Right? That's how we know that the theme is holding together. And the people that have been through Guru, even now, the ones who came several years ago, they're still using the same kind of language. They're using the same stories, the same analogy. So it has really stuck. Next, in terms of the actual marketing of it, specific marketing of it, create learning resources to indoctrinate people long before you ever attempt to sell them. And by indoctrinate, I don't mean brainwash. I mean take people through your philosophies. Don't let your website or your sales page be the only place that a person meets with your philosophies. Like, create a PDF report, create a video series, create 3 or 4 videos where you guide them through the story of why, who this retreat is for, who it's not for, why did you build it, all of that kind of stuff, all of that cool stuff. And then spend as long as you can on relationship building before you ever bring up the subject of cash. Right? And I know it seems if I just ask for the money today, I'm going to get a yes or no. Well, look, it's that kind of, will you marry me thing, the old cliche, will you marry me thing from marketing, right? If you walk up to a person in a bar, will you marry me? The likelihood is that they're going to say no, right? But if you take them out on a bunch of dates, you get to know them, you have dinner, all that kind of stuff. You build a relationship, asking them, will you marry me? Your likelihood is a lot higher. It's kind of like the same with filling your retreats. If you go for the wallet too early, if you say basically my term for this is buy my shit. So if you go into a buy my shit conversation too early, basically you put people into binary mode. No, right? They can only answer yes or no. You've made an invitation. No, I'm not going to do it. And very often, once people say no, they reinforce their no. Then once they've decided it comes off the table. Right? So don't bring people into a binary yes, no so early. Instead, spend time building the relationship. And if you're spending time building the relationship, you increase the likelihood of yes. And even if they haven't said yes to this one, but it's still now poking around in the back of their mind, maybe for the next one, I'm sure that's true of a lot of people in Enlightened Coach. There are people that haven't come on the Guru Project so far, but they really want to, and they haven't said no to it. Well, I'm doing this for life. I'm doing this work as a coach and an educator for life. So it doesn't matter whether everyone comes on. I love it when my events fill and people come, and I'd love it if you come on the next one. But it doesn't matter because there's going to be a next one and a next one and the next one. I only do it twice per year, but there's the opportunity in the future to do it. I'd rather you build a relationship with me and get to the point where you say, damn it, I've got to go on that. And that's what I advise for you as well, like build the relationship. Now, the key word there was spend as long as you can on relationship building before asking for the money. Because let's say, for example, it's an expensive retreat, like you're going really, really high ticket. a lot of people would need a bit of time to pay for that. So kind of think about like, what would your payment strategy be for that? And if you're letting people pay, let's say it's $3,000 or whatever, right? And you're letting people pay that in monthly installments. Well, kind of 1K installments, or is it six £500 installment or $500 installments? Like, what's it going to be? Because obviously you need to start asking at the time when you're going to want the first installment to start coming in. That's just one way of doing it, of course. And I know plenty of people who I've made bespoke payment plans for people that have come in a little bit late but didn't have all of the money to pay right away. And I've also kind of had times where it was just simply a one pay and that was it. There was no option for installments. So I've kind of had lots of different approaches. But the ultimate here is whatever your decision is around what you're going to charge for it and how you're going to put the payment plan in, that is obviously going to affect when you start asking people for money. If you've got a 6-month payment plan so that people can afford it, you need to start asking money at the 6-month point. So ideally, you wanted to have been building the relationship and going through the indoctrination before that. There's a lot more I can say about this. The indoctrination itself has an entire process to it. The relationship building aspect, to kind of be the specifics of what goes into that. But hopefully you're getting the gist. Hopefully that makes sense. This is really about building out a theme, sticking to that theme, creating a modular format, and then building up a case, both for and against attending. Like, polarize people. Get people very, very clear that this is not for them. Like, damn, all that guru stuff sounds like bullshit. I don't want to do all this self-development work to build my business. I just want to be told how to do some Facebook ads. Great, because that means you're not going to be sat there with your arms crossed and grimacing at me saying, well, why did I pay so much money to come on this shit? Right? I want to get rid of the people that don't belong, and I want to attract the people that do. And I don't want to have to become something that I'm not while I'm delivering my retreat. Because if that happens, you're just going to leave and you're going to say, yeah, it was all right. Kind of really wasn't worth the money. Okay, and that's not a good advertisement for my next time. And that's really what we're always thinking about as well. Kind of where, this is why systematic, themed, modular, relationship building, indoctrination, this is why it all becomes so important, because we're thinking big picture. High ticket isn't a one-hit wonder. It's a game plan, because what high ticket really is, people get focused on the ticket part, right? The kind of, which is why high ticket has such a bad rep amongst so many people, because they think that high ticket is just about squeezing as much cash as you can out of prospects and clients. What high ticket really is a commitment to high touch, high care, high attention, high focus, high delivery, high experience. That's what high ticket is, and that's why people are paying that. So put your mind there, Stephanie, right? And anyone who's kind of looking at this, put your mind there, and like, how can I create high touch, high experience, high commitment, high connection, all of those things. And then the high ticket part will kind of sell itself. Whatever price tag you put on it becomes almost irrelevant, because it's already been indoctrinated into people are looking at it going, even as they start reading your material, they're like, damn, there's no way this is going to be like cheap. This isn't going to be pennies. And that's the best place to be in. So I hope that makes sense, and I hope you feel like I did a good job of answering your question. Really looking forward to getting your feedback, Stephanie, and anybody else who's been listening to that. Like, what was your takeaways? What was the big aha or light bulb for you? Or what were any of the follow-on questions that might come as a result? Till next time, guys, take care.